All right, we are out here on the California side of Lake Tahoe doing some basic white boy shit with the lovely Rollo Tomassi
Yes, lovely.
and the lovely Justin Waller.
Yep, some real Kevin shit out here.
Exactly. We wanted to come and film something for you guys with this fantastic background, because why the
We're
hell
in
not?
Hope Valley, by the way. Hope Valley, California.
And we decided to talk about basically bro code, and because there's a lot of dudes out here, especially in this space, that have a lot of problems with loneliness. They don't have the kind of camaraderie and companionship that I know at least we have, and that we're all developing this very week. And I think that's important for guys, to focus on developing that camaraderie, that brothership, because the world we live in today tries to kind of isolate and separate men. Do you think that's a fair statement?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I also say that like a lot of guys right now in like the last like 2 or 3 generations, they don't have networks of like tribes of friends, right? Tribes of guys, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like they don't know how to socialize, or they weren't raised socializing to understand like how to interrelate with other guys and like what to do. And I think whenever guys hit me up and they're asking me for counseling and stuff, one of the first questions I ask them is like, do you have friends? Do you have like a tribe? Like, do you have workout partners? Do you have guys that you play basketball with? Do you guys chess club? I don't care what it is. Like, what is there a group of like guys that you actually go and hang out with because you have a shared interest? And I think that a lot of guys right now, because of the internet and because of social media, we tend to look at the internet as this big like extroversion, right? When in fact it's really an introversion. You feel like you're part of something, but when you turn off the computer, you're still at home and you're just like by yourself. And loneliness is a big deal for guys.
And I think a lot of guys find at least a degree of companionship and camaraderie in places like the comment section of your YouTube community, in the live chat. It's the substitute, right? But it's not a real substitute for actually going out, doing shit, hiking in the California mountains, for example, and we've only been friends for like since January, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Very, very recently, but we've developed a very, very strong kind of bro code between us. And you say this all the time whenever we're talking about chicks back at home and stuff, is that there's no girl can kind of get in between what we have, because we've laid the foundation of like, these are kind of the unbreakable rules of how we interact as guys, right? Yeah. And a lot of dudes, maybe you could speak on this, I think a lot of dudes break that. They
fall into it.
They'll break their brotherly bonds over pussy like that, like really quickly.
Right. Well, so one thing I do say, and I think we both say, is like, there's no such thing as a female pallbearer.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, they're not taking you. Have you ever seen one? Yeah. I've not seen one. And so, and at the same time, you cut that computer off, there's nobody beating on your door saying, hey, get up, bitch. We got to go to the gym.
Yeah.
You ain't sleeping in. So the internet can't save you from that. The internet can't save you from what we all fall into, where, what happens now is like guys have guy friends, but it's really just their girlfriend's boyfriend. Yeah. And that's not real friends, dude. Because I say all the time is fuck time, fuck blood. I don't care how long I've known a person, do our souls align or not. And so for that reason, you can get really close really fast. And I'm not as close to my brothers as I am to you, So for that reason, I think it's really, really, really important to stay around people in person.
Yeah, and like, for all the guys out here watching who might be in, completely different places on the planet, and it can be a challenge. I think it can be quite a challenge to, one, not only just find guys you can hang out and do activities with, right? But two, especially because they're red-pilled, finding a guy who's not completely blue pill, who kind of understands the world the way you understand the world, and then you can go out and do stuff with him. Like, it's twice as hard for guys in this community, I think.
Right. Well, they're trying like, again, it's this substitution of like real connection with guys. I've said this before, is that men do, women talk, right? And we tend to communicate, like the way that guys communicate is we have to have like a shared project. We have to have something that we have a shared interest. You'll notice that most of your friends are guys that either share like some kind of direction or some kind of purpose with you, or else they have like some kind of like, you're into the same sports, or you're into the same hobbies, you're into the, you like to fish, whatever they do too, that kind of stuff. Or whenever guys are communicating, it's usually over like fixing the car, right? Or watching the game. There's some kind of action that's taking place. There's some sort of, for lack of a better term, there's like a problem to solve. And as you are collectively cooperating on solving that problem, then, or that purpose, whatever the purpose is, that's where you sort of make that point of connection with guys. And I like what you said about that there's no female pallbearers. It's funny because it reminded me of this one quote that I put in an essay a long time ago is, who would you trust to give the eulogy at your funeral? Would it be like one of these guys, one of your friends, or would it be like your wife, or would it be like your girlfriend? Who would be the best person to sort of give a summation of your life? Who knows you the best? So much so that it's like the last thing anybody ever says about you. Like, who would that be?
It would be one of my guy friends. There's no doubt, and I don't have a whole lot of them. There's a handful right now. It would be him. Or one of the Tates, probably, to be quite honest with you, man. You know, because like
Who knows the most about you?
you have to find people that understand you, that are on the same path as you. And I feel like the closer you can get to a person, the more raw you can be with them. You can tell them your deepest truths. And I think that's why it's very important to get around men, especially if you're a red pill guy, to get around another red pill guy, because anywhere else you can't even tell your truth without worrying about getting kicked out of the tribe in the first fucking place.
That's a big part there, is like not getting, it's like
Keeps your frame.
not getting snitched on
Yeah.
by, you know,
Right.
the blue pill guys out there.
Or policed, self-policed. And
Yeah,
that's
like censored.
That's part of male space right now. A lot of feminization, a lot of gynocentrism wants to move into what were traditionally male spaces right now. You can make the comparison to politics or religion, all this other stuff, but it could be just a club. It can just be the male workspace. It can be whatever. Like if you're bringing right now, a lot of video game companies are having to deal with the fallout of wanting to get more women into programming, or in sort of the business, I guess, of that, and they're really struggling with this, because what they did is it's a traditionally male space that they brought women into, and what happens is the dynamic changes and it becomes less about whatever the project was, in this case like video games or whatever, but it could be anything. And what happens is when you bring women into male space, or they come into it, like now you have to let us into your old boys place.
The boys club. Yep.
It changes the dynamic, because the people who are like the guys who are in there will then switch over from being about whatever that space was about to being about inclusion, or bringing it like, well, we need to get their opinion. We need to have a woman's
It's not about
say.
the work anymore.
It's
Not about the work at all anymore.
Yeah, or the passion, the ambition that started that organization in the first place. And so that's an easy illustration. But like what you were just talking about just a second ago is when you have guys who are not, red pill aware or whatever, they tend to police the thoughts of other guys, like locker room talk, right? I mentioned this in a chapter in a book I wrote called Male Space, and it's overseers in the locker room. And what happens is women come into that locker room, and they police the conversation, they police the thinking and everything else. And what happens is the guys who are already a part of that, who want to appease that female...
They're doing it to preserve their right to the women.
And so what they will do is they will police you for what they think the women want you to think.
Yeah, absolutely. So they can preserve their right to that woman.
Right, well,
it's white knight shit.
It's intrasexual competition is what it is.
There was something you said earlier this morning when we were having breakfast. I think I was talking about getting my buddy in Europe to help me with like a bank account and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And you turned to Thomas right here, a handsome cameraman, and you said that's real friendship right there. And most guys don't actually have that. Most guys are like kind of in this setup where it's like him and his wife competing against some other dude and his wife. And there's kind of a degree of competition between guys rather than that camaraderie of actually like having your back, like ride or die between guys. Like you call him up at midnight, hey man, I'm in trouble, come help me. He's gonna be there. He's gonna rock up and help you.
Right.
And you can't. It's really hard to create that in a space where guys are, like tattletaling on each other, policing each other's language. Because that's a big thing about being a guy, is being uninhibited and uncensored. I think that's part of where Western culture has screwed up so much, is that we've become, it's feels before reels, like you say all the time, and it's just it's censorship, it's policing like there's a saying, I forget who said it when I first heard it, but the idea of sunlight is the best disinfectant.
Yeah.
Like if there's a shit idea, I want it out in the open. Like if you and me are talking about something,
and we disagree,
Yeah.
we'll straight up Google this shit on the spot.
Yeah.
Boom. Whoever's right's right. You're a jackass, and we move on.
exactly, and that's
Yeah.
fine. It's the idea of it's okay to be wrong.
And it's okay. It's absolutely okay to be wrong, and and I tell you what, another thing, it's okay to challenge your friend if you actually care about them.
Yes.
If there's actually, I believe there's a polarity to love, and if your friend's fucking up, if you really care about him, it's easy to love the guy when he's doing great. It's hard to love the guy when you're like, hey, bro, you're fucking up. You need to tighten your shit up.
Yep.
There's a lot to be said about somebody disagreeing with you or having the balls to disagree with you in front of your face instead of a group of couples coming together and then everybody gets in the car and then they talk shit, because that's not really a friend now, is it?
Talking shit behind each other's back.
Yeah.
Like that, the idea of like holding your friends accountable too is a huge part, because that means
talk about it all the time. When I went to Baton Rouge, you called me and said, "Dude, you need to come back." You know what I'm saying?
get your ass back here.
Yeah, because why is that? Because we work harder when we're around one another.
Exactly, because you like that's I think a sign of a real true brotherly bond with a man is that you're not gonna worry about offending him. You're not gonna worry about his emotions because you've got his best interests at heart. Because you know he's got your best interests at heart.
Right.
He's got your back. You've got his back.
Right.
So you're not okay. Whoop-de-doo. If I say something that's gonna offends him or upsets him in the moment, I know that he knows that I want the best thing for him. So in the long run, it's a positive thing. We're gonna be fine.
It was better for the team, and it goes back to what Rollo said. It's like you're about what the actual purpose is and not people's fucking feelings.
Right.
And that's where things get off balance. Like, I know that I could say something to you, and you're not going to get your feelings hurt because you're not a delicate sunflower or some shit, you know, and you can say the same thing to me, and I'm not going to get my feelings hurt. And so for that reason, there's actual trust there, you know, and I think a lot of times is that some people can't even be friends with guys on a level where they can actually take the risk to offend them because they lose the whole friendship over. Well, that's not friendship, you know?
How can guys develop that though, Rollo? Like what?
Well, I mean, you have
That degree of trust that we just talked about.
That's probably the hardest part right there, because first of all, you got to be able to have the social skills so that you know how to interact with guys. Most guys, like right now, I would say at least in the last 2 generations, possibly the last 3, they just simply don't know how to relate as guys. So they're convinced that like if I'm like fucking around with you, right? If I'm like, you know, ribbing you or whatever, if I'm giving you grief or whatever, they interpret that as bullying, or they interpret that as like hazing or whatever, you know, like, oh, why are you so abusive, you know, that kind of stuff. And they don't understand how men and how just like male human beings interrelate with one another, and they get their little feelings hurt because it's that's simply just the way that they've been brought up. So I think that's the first part right there. Those guys, as soon as you understand that, and as soon as you can like give as good, get as good as you give, kind of thing, that's when you can start to sort of build sort of a trust between 2 guys. But I do agree with you, Justin, as far as the idea of like holding guys accountable. Or I want people to, if I'm out of line, I want people to tell me that I'm out of line. I don't want yes men. I've always said I'm not in the business of making better men. I'm in the business of like helping men become better men, right? Give them the tools so that they can do it themselves. I don't want like the cult of Rollo Tomassi. I don't want to be I'm a Tomassi man. I don't want anybody to ever say that. I want them to like have taken these tools to build something else for themselves. And that requires critical inquiry. It requires being able to be, they say, iron sharpens iron kind of thing, right? That's the fuzzy feeling stuff, but it's really true, because there's a practical aspect to that as well, because you can't refine or you can't test the strength of an idea in any other place except for critical inquiry. And if somebody's not critical of you and I'm genuinely interested in like getting to the bottom of things, or genuinely interested in your own, understanding of like objective truth, those guys are just going to be yes men, and I don't want that. I want if I'm wrong, I want somebody to tell me I'm wrong. There used to be I think it was correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody will correct me on this, but I believe it was like Roman emperors or Caesars or whatever. They used to have naysayers. So they used to have somebody who was specifically there to say, that's bullshit. Huh. Or, are you sure you're doing this for the right reasons? They were like doomsayers or naysayers, or like memento mori, right? You're going to die. So, enjoy this moment because you're going to die, kind of thing. And I don't think we have enough guys who have the balls to say, Are you sure about that? Are you right about that? Do you think, are you really going down the right path with this? Let's talk about it. Let's have critical inquiry, and let's see if we can get down to the bottom of this so that we have a better understanding of like what objective, real truth is.
I like what you said before. We said, guys shoot the shit, they take the piss out of each other, and they rib each other and stuff.
Nobody knows how to do that anymore.
Just a sign of love, man.
Like I don't.
It's weird to me because I've always been like, if you have a brother, you already know probably. My brother and I have had one mutual interest, which was beating the shit out of each other. That was about it.
If you can't insult me, then I can't trust you.
Right.
That's what that comes down to, because like for me to call you a jackass, if you'd call me a dickhead, there's a deeper level of understanding there.
We call each other much worse than that.
Yeah, this is for YouTube. But there's a deeper level, a deeper layer there that we understand that we're not gonna get offended by it. We understand that we've got each other's back, and so it's like a test. It's almost like a kind of like a subconscious test of strength in a way, or test of your frame, like
it's a
checking each other.
It's a test to see if we both understand and agree that we're on an equal enough playing field to see each other as a peer, and then have that congruent, love to go in the same direction.
That's what I want to ask you then, Justin. Is how, because there's say you got a bunch of guys watching this, all be on like the same wavelength in terms of like understanding of the world, aka red pill, right? But then there might be at different levels of competency in their life. There might be, they're different ages, they're different levels of income, different levels of fitness, etc. Right? How can guys try to find dudes they can align with if they're at such different places in life?
I think it's probably easier if you start with age. Just because statistically, I think a guy in his 20s is going to be closer to a guy in his 20s, not closer to a guy, in his 30s. Yeah. And then I guess, man, just looking hard. And then once you find that person, man, you might have to burn the boat and commit. We just signed a lease in a really, really nice place in Miami. I burned the boat on that deal because, you know how hard it is to come by. Yeah. And so once you find it and it is what you think it is, and I think that's the hardest part, is finding it. But I think that it's something that you constantly need to be looking for, because what you're actually doing is trying to put yourself in a pressure cooker of being a better man all the way around. Yeah. Because you're putting yourself in an environment is what you're really doing.
Where you can't get comfortable, you can't relax.
Nobody will let you relax. By the time I start to relax, you'll turn up. Yeah. By the time you start to relax, I'll turn up. And with that constantly going on, if I see you typing away on your computer, I'll be fucking damned if I'm not going to open mine. Or if you see me going to the gym, next thing you know, boom, you're signing a contract at UFC down the street like you did. I mean, it is what it is, man. And I think a good way to, because motivation comes and goes, right? But putting yourself in a position that's going to force you to do certain things is actually a really smart way of doing it, because then
it's called death ground strategy is what that is.
So how does that work?
Death ground strategy is burn the boats behind you, burn the bridges behind you. If you put yourself into a situation where, and by the way, this is straight out of Robert Greene's 33 Strategies of War, by the way, but it's commonly known as death ground strategy. If you'll fight that much harder if you don't have any other options. If you can't go back, sometimes the best plan A is not to have a plan B. And so when you put yourself into what's called death ground strategy, it's like you either you get rich or die trying. That's the sense of it. And you can apply that to a lot of different aspects of your life too. It doesn't have to be like, win the war or not. I mean, it's like it can be in business, it can be in a relationship, it can be in all kinds of different ways. So, but that's really what that is. It's like you have to give yourself less options, or you have to deliberately put yourself into positions where things are made harder for you so that you can grow from that. That's another thing that I don't think a lot of guys really do these days. Is we're so comfortable right now. It's convenient for us to do stuff. It's again, like I said, the internet is its build is it's the advertising is it's this big extravagance, and we're going to do an online concert, or we're going to stream whatever, and it's everybody's going to get together. It's like no one's getting together. Everybody is at their watching on their iPads or their phones or whatever else, and it's not an actual interaction, a human interaction. We were talking about gambling yesterday and going to the casinos and stuff, and I mentioned that the only thing I play in the casinos is craps. and sometimes 21, right? Because I want to see somebody across the table from me. I want a human being that I'm playing. And again, even the dealers, they're on your side. They want you to win because they want you to tip them, right? But it's not the same as like, say, going to a video slot machine or a poker machine or whatever, and you're just, it's just like playing. You might as well have your phone in front of your hands at that point because there's no like human interaction between the two of you, and you don't remember that occasion because there's no occasion to remember. It's just you playing that, and there has to be that kind of connection, that kind of interaction between the two of you. And I think that's greatly missing right now from a lot of guys because it's something that's hard to relate to. It doesn't resonate with them. Like, what am I going to do? I'm going to go online and chat and, put, a drive-by comment on Rollo's, latest video.
And it would raise a question. Why is it worth it to win in war if there's no one to celebrate with?
Right.
If there's no one there to see
What
it.
memories are you creating?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're creating memories this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say later on, I'm at the point in my life right now, and I like what you said about, guys of different ages and stuff like that, but I'm at the point right now where I want to do things with my money and help like put it into like projects. Like I'm working with Kevin Savo right now, and I'm looking at other things because I want to foster things that I would have loved to have been fostered when I was like Tom's age, right? But it's that's one, and the other thing is that I'm past 50 now, so it's like I'm more concerned with experiences than things. It's nice to have toys, but I want toys that I can have experiences on, that I can go and say, okay, I got a sled, I got my snowmobile, I can get it to the top of Talac or wherever we're gonna go, right? That kind of stuff. That's the experience side. It's just a tool to get me into the experience right now. So it's not so much about materialism as it is, I want to be able to experience like rock climbing or parachuting, whatever it is.
You have this saying,
The rocking chair, yeah.
the rocking chair thing. Like when you're an old man, what are the things you're going to remember?
What's going to make you smile?
Remembering it, smiling on your rocking chair.
Right.
Oh, that time we went to Tahoe and did that thing, or that time we got busted by the cops down in Reno, or whatever it is.
That's how I make my decisions. I make my decisions off of that. If I have a hard decision to make, and I'm like, okay, do I go to Tahoe? Do I not? Do I go to Europe? Do I not? Well, when I'm 90 years old and I can't do it anymore, will I smile?
Yeah.
And just to transition, because I definitely want to loop back something we were talking about, how we call each other names and things. I just want to, when we're on the subject of friends, I'd want to transition to, when do we not say those things to one another in the presence of women? And about the loyalty of a friend. Like, there's a lot of things that happen. You're a group of couples, you're so used to calling each other said name. But one thing, Stirling, I absolutely do not do ever is call each other names or even joke around in front of women. Now, the second they leave, he's a bunch of words I can't say on YouTube.
Back at it again.
Yeah, back at it again. But one of the rules that we keep very, very well is if Stirling gets up to pee, I walk over to his girl and say, like, how did you get him? I mean, we back him up. We set frames for one another quite a bit.
It's just unfair.
It is, but look, life ain't fair. Get mad or play fucking ball.
They're playing against the A team right here.
Yeah. So like, I mean, we talk about these things. Like, I know not, like me and Stirling do not say, not even jokingly, do we say these things in front, whether it's a business person or a female or whatever it is. We hold frame for each other in each other's absence on purpose. Yeah. So you definitely should call your friends names and cut up and do all those other things, but there's definitely a time and a place for it, and it's kind of in the privacy of that friendship.
Yeah, which is why it's important for guys to have their time only around the boys, and not constantly interacting in like a mixed gender environment.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
And there's something else we do all the time, which is we never, like, the moment one of us is working a girl, we've matched with her on IG or whatever, or we're constantly sharing notes. It's like, oh, okay, this one's yours. Like, game over. Even if we both match with her or something, or even if we both initially talk to her.
He'll do it from across the ocean. You want to talk about loyalty? Loyalty? Tristan Tate texts me the other day. He's like, hey, Jay, see this girl's following you on IG. I would have never known. That's loyalty.
Yeah.
That's fucking loyalty, man. And I would do the same. And I could, I don't know who said this. It was one of the two of them. But they said, you want to know if you can trust a guy or not? Leave him with your girlfriend and your bank account for the weekend. And I think that's very true. You want to find, like, I don't trust a broke guy. I don't trust a guy that can't get girls, because and that's why I say ethics happen before you need them, is like you need to find guys that are working on this. Y'all need to work on it together, and then that way you both can be in abundance, so you don't find yourself in a drought of either of those two things, so you can be abundant and you don't do something desperate because you'll regret it, and it's going to be much harder to make that money back or find another. It'll be much easier to make the money back or find another girl than it will be to replace that man.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
Yeah, you're going to compromise your values.
Yeah.
You're going to compromise your friendship.
Right, and you're
just,
not going to find many of them.
Just to get your dick sucked for like
Right.
30 minutes.
One of my favorite lines in any movie is in a movie called Tombstone. There's a shootout. And I forget the guy's name that did all the shooting, but he's sick. And the guy's like, why did you do that? You could have died. And he goes, well, because they're my friend. And he goes, I got a bunch of friends. And he simply says, I don't. And I think that's one of the most powerful lines in that movie, man, because if you think you have more than a handful of friends, you might not have any friends. You know, not real ones.
Yeah.
You know, close ones.
Real close ones, like
Yeah.
the ones that are going to, like you said,
Carry you to the grave.
carry you to the grave, be a
Yeah.
pallbearer,
Go to war.
turn up at your, at your funeral.
I did a full episode on like, the loneliness, like why you're lonely kind of thing. And how to deal with that not too long ago, and I had a lot of feedback on that because it was based on an article, actually several articles, but one that was I think was in the Boston Globe about how men today don't have close friends. And the solution, of course, by the female author of the article is, be more like a chick, right? Like, spend time with your friend, set up coffee dates. And it's like, no, that's not how men interact.
Yeah.
You just simply fundamentally don't understand how men create friends, how men have friendships. And yeah, they're right. Most guys today, there's a very, deep lack of friendship between, men and men. And the older you get, the tougher it is. You're more likely to just be at home and I mean, you go and you look at the suicide rate, at least in the United States, anyways, for men, it's between 45 and 65 years old, and most of them are suicides of despair. Yeah. Because they don't have anybody to talk to, they don't have they don't have any close friendships, and even the friends that they do have, they're online. They don't talk to them face to face. And so, you're gonna nobody cares either. That's the other thing is nobody cares. If it was women who killed themselves at between 3.5 to 5 times the rate of
We'd have a whole
men.
month for it.
Oh man, yeah, we'd have a whole
ribbon
month for it.
We'd have a fucking ribbon for it. Rollo, would you say those guys are coming off a post-divorce where they've invested all of their friendship potential and all their companionship potential into a woman, then she leaves and then they've got nothing?
Right. Well, because they think that that's the way it should be. They think that they should give up. Like a lot of guys, particularly the 80%ers, most beta blue pill guys, think that their duty is to be as alike with their wife or their girlfriend or whatever as possible. That's identification game right there. And then second of all is like that's the right thing to do. What's the first thing that a lot of guys do when they get a girlfriend or they get married is they give up on their friends or they just don't see them anymore because they're supposed to be spending time with the girl. And then, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy kind of thing. And so you get to a point where that becomes your life, and then suddenly divorce or suddenly something happens, like your life can change in the blink of an eye. Then suddenly you're kind of ass out, man. You don't know what to do with yourself, and it's what I call getting zeroed out. And there's lots of ways to get zeroed out. You can lose your job, you can lose your wife, you can lose, your living situation. Maybe just something just rattles your cage so much that it fundamentally changes your perspective on life and everything else. And you don't know what to do with yourself. That's what a lot of the guys, when they come up to me and say, hey man, I just got into the red pill. I realized, that the way I have been living my life for the last, quarter century, 25, 30 years has been based on, inaccurate information. And now I have two choices. I can either rebuild myself and remake myself, or I can just off myself. And when you are 50, 60, 70 years old, you might say, you know what, I don't have enough time to really, do anything or rebuild, which is bullshit, by the way.
Yes, complete bullshit.
But that's the thinking, the common thinking. And when you get zeroed out, sometimes it seems like suicide is the solution for you. And guys are very pragmatic about that. Women will say, well, women attempt suicide more. I go, yeah, because that's an emotional, appeal. That's
guys are better at it.
Yes, and when men kill themselves, it's a pragmatic decision. It's just seems to me this is the best way to go. You can go about it.
It's evaluation.
Yeah, and it's never the right. I mean, I've spent my whole time as Rollo Tomassi, trying to keep the noose off guys' necks and the gun out of their mouths. And I thank God I've been able to do that. But I understand how they come to that point. I understand the deductive reasoning that is behind that, for sure. But it's you don't have anybody to really bounce ideas off of. You don't have anyone to interrelate with. And maybe what I think is kind of tragic is maybe those guys did before, like maybe when they were single, or maybe like for the first part of their marriage they were they had some friends that they hung out with, and then slowly they just kind of dropped off because either logistics or responsibilities or the idea that got to keep mama happy kind of thing. And then they get to a point where they don't have those relationships that they used to have. And for women, because women have a much greater facility with communication, and they have much broader social networks in the sense that like friendship and collective, the sisterhood, right? They don't understand why guys don't have friends, because they do. And so their solution is always, well, you don't have friends. Well, you need to go to Bridge Club, right? Or you need to go, have set up a coffee date at Starbucks.
Let's go to Pilates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so their solution is the female way of relating as friends, and they have no clue how guys actually create connections, first of all. And then second of all, those guys don't know how to interrelate with other guys anyways. So yeah, it certainly seems like I understand the despondency. I understand the nihilism that comes with that when you get zeroed out.
Yeah. One thing I think that you and I do right is you and I create the frame, and then our girl would follow that frame, and we keep it, instead of me and you falling in two separate holes that are isolated in a blue pill frame.
Yeah.
So it's basically like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, if my girl meets your girl, hey, it's nice to meet you. We're with these guys, and they live inside our frame. It's not me and you walking up separately with a girl. It's them kind of chasing us and say, oh, well, Justin and Stirling are this way, so me and you together are going to have to be friends inside that frame.
Because they're entering our tribe.
Right.
If you look at it,
our shit.
Yeah, if you look at it, like rewind the clock a bit, right? What we're really doing there is taking women and bringing them into our tribe. I have this sort of kind of conclusion a while ago where, like, we talk about guys having rites of passage all the time, right? Especially in more traditional hunter-gatherer societies and things. There's a clear, distinctive rite of passage. He's a boy now, and now he's a man, right? With women, I think one of their kind of equivalent of a rite of passage is going from their father's tribe to their husband's tribe.
That's a big deal.
That transition of, I no longer belong to this tribe, I'm now part of his tribe, but they don't really get that very much anymore in this society, because they're still like so interconnected with their family and stuff, or they've got their own, like, the girl's social circle, and then they're trying to bring their man into that girl's social circle. So they're not even getting that fulfillment of their own kind of version of a rite of passage in the current modern setup.
I think there's a reason for that too, is because there are such a lack of men that their fathers could actually respect. They don't feel secure in maybe handing that guy off. I tell you, one of the best things that can ever happen to you is you have the ability to shake your girl's dad's hand and look him dead in the eye, and he knows what the fucking deal is. And respect it.
My buddy he's about to have his first kid, and he's already decided that any son or any guy who wants to marry his daughter has to fight him.
Yeah, that was me. I said that. Is that what are you getting to me? Okay, you're coming down to me. You have to.
I actually have another friend who said that. I didn't know you did that.
Oh yeah, I did actually. And I got run up the flagpole for saying it too. I was like, you must defeat me in single combat.
I think that's a great. Like, you have to defeat him. But like, at least
balls to do it, mate.
Exactly, had the balls to step in and roll with them on the jiu-jitsu mat, or spar with him, or whatever. It's just like, how badly do you want my daughter?
Yeah,
prove it.
Yeah,
do it. That's gonna get a man's respect.
Right, this is okay. Another stupid Matrix reference here, but you guys remember? I think it was the second Matrix movie when Neo has to fight. What was the other guy who's in there? Seraph. Is that you don't know a person until you've fought them.
Right.
You don't really truly know a man until you fought him, right? I'm saying you have to kill the dude, but I mean, until you fought with him. I was like, that seems to make sense to me. Maybe that's an eternal truth. I don't know.
Yeah, it's something we've kind of forgotten, I think. We've become a bit too pussified in our modern society.
Yeah.
You know, like I've people talk about saving the West all the time. I'm getting a bit off topic here, but people talk about saving the West and whatnot on Twitter and on YouTube and whatnot these days. And I find if there was one thing I think that would save the West, it would be bring back legalized dueling. Right? If somebody's going to talk shit about me online, he's like, because you got no.
As long as I get to use a rapier or an epee, I'm down with it.
I want to do it with my fists. I don't mean guns. I want to punch the guy. Like if he's going to go online and talk shit, but he's not going to be held accountable for his shit. We used to hold people accountable. We used to have a thing called honor and integrity and reputation. That all meant something. A man's handshake meant something.
It's all LARPing.
His word meant something. Exactly.
It's all LARPing.
Exactly.
Now. It's all LARP.
Exactly. So they can.
It's all LARPing until you're willing to die for it. It's all LARPing. Like people always say this, oh, that's LARPing. You don't really believe in that. That's just you pretending to be something you're not. That's you going off to the Renaissance Fair or something. That's like you, whatever it is. It's like, yeah, well, you know what? Back in the day when they were forming militias for the, colonial war or whatever, like everybody was LARPing then too until the shots started, zinging past them, and then it's not LARPing anymore. Yeah, then you better damn well believe in it.
That it's real.
Yeah,
it's real. Yeah, you want to save the West, legalize dueling and make it zero ramifications for whatever happens. Yep. If he kills me, he doesn't go to jail. If I kill him, he doesn't go to jail. But we can sort it out then and there. Or he has to publicly state that he's a liar and a pussy.
They used to let us do that in the South, man, at football practice. If we got into it too bad, they'd let us do it, man. It's like, hey, they really would. I am not lying. In fact, I was probably one of the last generations where you could actually take the choice of detention, or the principal would call you out of class and hit you with a paddle 5 times, and everybody could hear it. The South kind of came around last on that deal. But I also think when it comes to having friends in real life, I don't think there's anything that can replace looking in a man's eyes, because of micro expressions. If you leave an individual and there's something about him that I trust, or if there's something not, they say it's a gut feeling. It's really your brain and your subconscious picking up those micro expressions. Yeah, it's not your fucking gut. Like it's actually something is happening for you to feel that way about that other person.
Well, because what will happen is your peripheral awareness picks up on things that your sort of cognitive awareness doesn't.
Does not, yeah.
And so, like, when guys tell me this, they say, Rollo, I think my girlfriend's cheating. Should I go and look through her Instagram or her phone or whatever? I go, the very fact that you have the instinct to do that tells me everything that I need to know, because your peripheral awareness is noticing behavioral inconsistencies. Like, she's not behaving the way that I usually think she should, but then you'll make up these reasons, say, well, I don't want to be an insecure guy, so I don't want to go and do that. But your gut, your instinct, for lack of a better term, your gut is going, no, this is really what's happening. But the same thing can happen with like guys, and when you get an initial sort of read on some guy, it's the same thing. Yeah. By the way, when you look somebody in the eye, and since we're talking about duels and fencing or whatever, like direct eye contact, when you're looking at it, that's central to the human attack posture. So when you look someone straight in the eye, even if you're their friend, like I'm looking you straight in the eye right now, like there's still a sense of conflict. Like, and we tend to be really conflict avoidant, especially guys today. They do. They would rather look down or not avoid that contact. But it's central to the human attack posture, and you kind of have to go, okay, this guy's not going to kick my ass. I'm just looking at him directly so I can communicate with the guy. And that's, I think, is something of a lost art right now.
I think that builds a bond too, right?
Yeah.
Because if you can look a guy in the eyes, that means that you two are doing that thing together, which goes back to that, like, are we on this same place? And that kind of helps you find your pack too. Because if a guy is so far below you, he can't look in your eye, but then you find a man that can, then you're like, hey, I might be able to go to war with this dude. Like we're close to the same place. Do
you think that plays into why like eye contact is so attractive to women?
Yes, absolutely it is. In fact, that's why it's confrontational. Like I said, there could be the possibility for it's a dominance thing too. Like for instance, like when you were a kid, you had staring contests. Yeah. That's where that comes from. Yeah. It's like it's innate. It's like instinctive. Like who's going to blink first, kind of thing. And when, for instance, like when you are fencing, when you're when you're learning like foil or a pay or something like that, they say focus on your opponent's mask. Look him in the eye. First of all, because you can't really see their face really through it, but it's central to the attack posture. But the other thing is you can't track where the blade's going to go anyway, so you kind of have to have a central point where you're looking. And that right there, the other guy's looking you dead in the eye too. It's fun. It's like exhilarating at the same time, but it's confrontational. And again, that transfers over into a lot of other things. So it could be with girls, it could be with like your kids, it could be with a dog, with an animal. If you're looking straight in the eye of like a mountain lion, which we might around here at some point, that if that thing is looking at you and it's like laser focused on you, you're probably going to get your ass beat.
Right.
Or clawed, whatever.
Let's hope we don't find any mountain lions today.
Well, I mean, animals will do that too. It's central to the attack posture, especially predators. When our eyes are focused on the straight ahead rather than the side of our heads, kind of thing.
Yeah, not to get off subject too far, but I think that those predator eyes, especially when looking at women, most of the time, if you can approach a woman or not before you say a word. You know
how receptive she's going to be to that approach.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You already know from the beginning. So a lot of times you can test before you even walk up. I mean, you've seen it.
I've seen you do that a million times.
It's like 90% of the game there. At that point, they don't even know what the fuck you said. But you're right about that. It's because it's a dominant predator type interaction where they see it, they like it, and so they take a submissive role inside of it. And I think the same thing for friends is if you can look another man in the eyes and not veer away, then it's like, hey, this person might be worth having on my team. Let's go from there, type scenario.
Because it comes back to like that tribal nature of can this guy does he have my back?
An asset or a liability?
Yeah. If we're in a fight, is he going to have my back or is he going to run away and I'm dead?
And if he's going to run away from eye contact, then he's certainly going to run away from altercation.
Yeah.
So, that kind of really sums up.
And there's no tribes right now. That's the whole thing. It's like, is this guy got my back? Does he not have my back? And there's no, because we are so dissociated from each other these days because of the internet, because of whatever. It's like we just don't have those, unless you're in the military maybe, and in that case maybe it's just because you depend on the other guy in times of war or, your squad, but even that's getting more and more rare right now. And we just don't have the opportunities to build tribes, and we don't have the opportunity, or we don't have the people who have the skills to even understand how to build those, how to interact with those guys. And I think that's really where, if we're going to do something that's going to be advantageous to society or advantageous to like what I've called conventional masculinity with respect to like being red pill aware, I think that's definitely a place that we need to start, is teaching guys the social skills. That's really what game is teaching guys social skills, teaching them understanding, how to talk to girls, how to talk to guys.
What do you think about the idea of like, I mean, there's a lot of kind of men's like get-togethers and events and stuff in this space, and I've been to a bunch of it, and I've seen friendships form from those events, and I think those are very, very important for guys to at least in this day and age, to happen on a more regular basis. So guys who have this same kind of understanding of the world, one, don't feel alone, two, connect with the guys that they're interacting with online or through Telegram chat or something.
And that could be the answer to the question that you asked earlier, is like, how does a guy go about doing it? I think you have to turn up in real life, man.
Yeah,
you have to turn up in real life.
Yeah.
Otherwise you won't know. It's just some shit behind the keyboard.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to expose yourself. I'll tell you my weaknesses all the time, and vice versa. Like, yo, I need to stop doing this, or I need to do this, or whatever thing that may be. But I think that you have to show up in person, because without that showing up in person, you can't have trust, and without trust, you can't have any kind of vulnerability with another man. I'm not trying to be vulnerable, but at least you can tell the truth, when you have trust.
How are you going to get to objective truth if you can't be critical with the other guy? Like all that bullshit that went down with like Abba and Preach and Fresh and Fit, the first thing out of my mouth was like, and people say, oh, you're on Fresh and Fit's tribe or team or whatever. It's like, it's not a team thing. I came down on them almost immediately. John from Modern Life Dating and myself both came down on them, and if we hadn't, we would not be good friends. If we had not said, dude, you fucked up, and I'm still cool with you, but here, here's me checking you. And then, then I'm going to talk about whatever else we're going to talk about. But like first and foremost, the first thing I said is like, they screwed up. And I want somebody who's going to tell me that when I fuck up. because when I fuck up, I want people to go, hey, check yourself before you wreck yourself, kind of thing. And if that's not forthcoming from a guy, then I'm lost. I'm just as lost as the guy is who won't correct me.
Yeah, man, and that's why it's so important to have somebody that'll step in and tell you about these things that you're doing. And like, if you don't have a friend that will cover your blind spots, then a lot of times you have a guy that secretly doesn't want to see you succeed, and that's one of the most fucking dangerous things you could possibly have.
Yeah, he's not actually a friend and a comrade in that instance. He's actually he's trying to compete against you, not with you.
Right. It's either one or two things. Either he does not want to see you be successful, so he doesn't tell you about his blind spots, or he's a fucking coward, which is just as bad.
Yeah.
Because he will not confront you for your best interest.
Well, he probably doesn't, or he doesn't want you to be successful because if you become successful, it points out all the problems in his own life where he knows subconsciously he ain't stepping up.
Right.
And if you step up, it makes him feel like a pussy, and he has to confront himself and look himself in the mirror.
He doesn't want to do that.
He doesn't want to do that.
And look, whether he doesn't want to see you succeed or he's just a coward, it's the same result. Yeah. He's not watching out for your. He doesn't have your six, man, straight up, and he's not looking at your blind spot. So either of those is the same result. And so again, I think that goes by why you want to be around people in real life, because there's nothing to hide behind in real life.
Yeah. That's exactly it. All right, guys. I can't think of a way to wrap this up correctly, appropriately, whatever.
I think doing stuff like this makes red pill awareness, or makes, even just having these discussions, it makes it resonate. I think it resonates with just average guys, right? I think that the red pill needs to be for everyone, or it's for no one. It can't just be for guys who are just living like the dream life somewhere on Instagram, flying in, Lear jets and whatever else. It's got to be for everybody. It's got to be for guys who are out in the woods, right? It's got to be for guys who are, blue collar workers. It's got to be for guys who aren't just, guys who drive Chevy trucks instead of, Lamborghinis or something like that. And I think that this kind of conversation is really valuable for just to expand the red pill into something that everybody can relate with.
In conclusion, go out there and connect with other guys, all right?
Yes.
And do it in real life, for goodness sake. That does us, Thomas.